You close the door behind you. The world outside continues its noise, its demands, its endless performance of connection, and you feel it, the exhale, the weight lifting, the tension draining from your shoulders like water finally allowed to flow downhill. You are alone. And for the first time all day, you feel like yourself. You reach for a book. You sit in the silence, you think without interruption, and somewhere deep in your chest, beneath the relief, beneath the peace, a question begins to form. A question you have been avoiding for months, maybe years. Is this freedom, or is this the beginning of something I will not be able to come back from? Friedrich Nietzsche spent the last decade of his productive life wandering Europe alone. No permanent home, no spouse, no children, no institutional support, just his notebooks, his thoughts, and a growing sense that the solitude he had chosen as a sanctuary was slowly becoming a cage. And in that solitude, he discovered something that most people who romanticize being alone never see coming. A warning, not about loneliness, about transformation. Because solitude does not leave you the same. It does not simply give you rest, it rebuilds you. And the person it rebuilds is often unrecognizable to the person who first closed the door. Nietzsche wrote, "The man who has come to know the freedom of reason can feel on earth like nothing but a wanderer, though not a traveler towards a final destination, for there is no such thing." He was not celebrating. He was confessing, if you enjoy being alone, if you have begun to prefer your own company to the company of others, if the idea of a quiet evening fills you with more anticipation than any invitation ever could, then you need to hear what Nietzsche discovered. Because the path you are walking is older than you think, and it does not lead where you expect, you were not supposed to enjoy this. Every message you received growing up told you the same thing. Connection is life, community is health, the person who withdraws is sick, damaged, running from something. And maybe at first you believed it. Maybe you tried, you showed up to the gatherings, you maintained the friendships, you participated in the rituals of social bonding, the dinners, the drinks, the group chats that never stop talking and never say anything, and somewhere along the way, the effort started to outweigh the reward. The conversations began to feel like scripts you had already memorized. The laughter felt performative. The connection felt like a transaction where both parties were pretending to enjoy an exchange neither of them needed. You started noticing the relief you felt when plans were cancelled. The quiet thrill of an empty weekend. The clarity that came when you stopped trying to be understood by people who were never going to meet you at your depth. And you made a choice. Not dramatically, not with an announcement. You just started saying no. You started choosing the book over the bar, the walk alone over the crowded event, the sovereignty of your own mind over the exhausting diplomacy of group dynamics. And it felt good. It felt right. It felt like coming home to a part of yourself you had abandoned years ago just to fit in. But then something else began to happen. Something Nietzsche tried to warn us about in every book he wrote. In every aphorism he carved like a headstone. The more you enjoyed being alone, the less you fit anywhere else. The door you closed for peace became a door you could not reopen without pain, because you changed. And the world you left behind stayed exactly the same. Nietzsche called this process the philosophy of the hermit. But he did not use the word hermit the way modern culture does, as an insult, a diagnosis, a failure to adapt. He used it to describe a specific type of human being, the person whose mind has outgrown the operating system of the herd, the person who can no longer tolerate the noise because they have heard the silence and discovered that the silence has a voice. And that voice is deeper, truer, and more demanding than anything the crowd ever asked of them. He wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes? This is not poetry, this is a process. The solitude you are enjoying right now is not rest, it is fire. It is burning away the parts of you that were designed to please others, to fit in, to be digestible. And what remains after that burning is something the world does not have a category for." Nietzsche discovered this in his own life with a brutality that almost destroyed him. In 1879, he resigned from his position as a professor at the University of Basel. Chronic migraines, failing eyesight, digestive agony that left him bedridden for days at a time. But the pain was not just physical, it was philosophical. He could no longer teach ideas he had outgrown. He could no longer stand in front of students and pretend that the academic system was producing anything other than intellectual mediocrity. So he left, and for the next 10 years he wandered, Switzerland, Italy, France, Germany, moving from boarding house to boarding house, writing in bursts between waves of illness, alone. Completely alone. No colleagues, no family who understood him. His sister Elizabeth, who later betrayed his work by aligning it with nationalist ideology he despised, was one of the few people he stayed in contact with, and even that relationship was poisoned by her inability to see him as anything other than her broken, difficult brother. And in that solitude, Nietzsche wrote the works that would change Western philosophy beyond good and evil. On the genealogy of morals, Twilight of the Idols, the Antichrist. Books so sharp, so uncompromising, so far ahead of their time that almost no one read them while he was alive. He sent copies to intellectuals across Europe. Most never responded. The few who did either misunderstood him entirely or dismissed him as a madman. By 1889, his mind collapsed. He spent the last 11 years of his life in near total silence, cared for by his mother and sister, unable to speak, unable to write, a genius erased by the very isolation that had birthed his greatest work. And here is the warning Nietzsche left behind, the warning coded into every page he wrote. Solitude will give you vision. It will show you truths the herd cannot see. It will strip you of illusions and rebuild you into something stronger, sharper, more honest, but it will also exile you. Because the clearer you see, the less you will be able to tolerate the blindness of others. And once you cross that threshold, once you have spent enough time alone that you have become someone the crowd does not recognize, there is no going back. Not because the world will not let you return, because you will not want to. The door closed behind you, and you are on the other side now. But let us be precise about what is happening to you, because this is not about introversion. This is not about social anxiety or trauma or fear. This is about something far more dangerous and far more rare. It is about the reconstruction of the self outside the gaze of others. Every human being is born into a web of expectations. Your parents expect you to reflect their values. Your teachers expect you to absorb their lessons. Your friends expect you to mirror their interests. Your culture expects you to perform your role, worker, spouse, citizen, consumer, without questioning the script. And for most people, the self they build is a composite of those expectations, a personality assembled from the outside in. They do not know who they are. They only know who they have been told to be. And because they have never been alone long enough to hear their own voice beneath the choir of external demands, they mistake the composite for the truth. You were like this once, before the solitude, before the silence. You were performing a version of yourself that had been focus grouped by everyone around you. And then you stopped performing. You closed the door, and in the stillness, in the absence of an audience, you began to hear something. Your actual thoughts, your actual preferences, your actual values. Not the ones you inherited, but the ones you would choose if no one were watching. Nietzsche called this process becoming who you are, and he was obsessed with it. He wrote, "No one can construct for you the bridge upon which precisely you must cross the stream of life. No one but you yourself alone. The bridge is solitude, and the crossing is terrifying because once you start building your identity from the inside out, instead of the outside in, you realize how few people in your life actually know you. They know the performance, they love the mask, but the face beneath the mask, the one you are meeting for the first time in the quiet of your own company, is a stranger to them. And here is where it gets darker. The more you become yourself, the less compatible you become with people who are still performing. There is a concept in psychology called the differentiation of self. It describes the process by which a person separates their own thoughts, feelings, and values from the expectations of their family and social system. High differentiation means you can be in a relationship, in a family, in a society, without losing yourself in it. Low differentiation means you are a chameleon, constantly shape-shifting to match the emotional temperature of the room. Most people have low differentiation, and they are comfortable that way. Because low differentiation is safe, it keeps you connected, it keeps you loved, It keeps you from the existential terror of standing alone with your own convictions and no one to validate them. But the person who enjoys being alone is usually someone whose differentiation is increasing. You are separating. You are discovering that you do not need the group's permission to think what you think, to believe what you believe, to live the way you want to live. And that discovery is exhilarating. It is freedom, but it is also exile, because the group does not reward differentiation. It punishes it. Nietzsche saw this in his own life. The more original his thinking became, the more isolated he was. Colleagues stopped inviting him to conferences. Publishers rejected his manuscripts. Friends drifted away, not because they hated him, but because they could no longer understand him. He had differentiated so far from the herd that he was speaking a language they could no longer pass. And the tragedy, the warning, is that Nietzsche could not go back. Even if he had wanted to, even if the loneliness became unbearable, he could not unsee what solitude had shown him. He could not unbecome the person the silence had forged. He was trapped on the other side of the bridge he had built, and you are building that same bridge right now. Every evening you choose the book over the party. Every weekend you choose the silence over the noise. Every month you let another shallow friendship fade without fighting to keep it alive. You are laying stone. And one day you will look back across the river and realize the people on the other side are not waving. They are staring, and they do not recognize you anymore. Now we arrive at the mechanism, the thing Nietzsche understood that almost no one talks about. Solitude does not just change how you think, it changes what you can tolerate. There is a concept in neuroscience called sensory adaptation. When you are exposed to a constant stimulus, your nervous system adapts. The stimulus becomes background noise, you stop noticing it, but when the stimulus is removed, when you enter silence, your sensitivity recalibrates. Sounds that were once background become foreground. Noise that you used to ignore becomes unbearable. This is what is happening to you socially. When you were constantly immersed in social interaction, you adapted. The small talk, the gossip, the performative laughter, the shallow exchanges, you tolerated them because you were surrounded by them. They were the water you swam in. But now you have been out of the water. You have been in the silence, and your nervous system has recalibrated. The tolerance you once had for low-quality interaction has evaporated. You cannot sit through the dinner party anymore without feeling your soul slowly suffocating. You cannot engage in the surface-level conversation without a rising sense of urgency to escape. It is not that you have become judgmental or arrogant, it is that your system has been reset to a different baseline, and the baseline is depth, silence, meaning. Nietzsche experienced this acutely. He wrote letters to friends describing his growing inability to tolerate social gatherings. He would attend a dinner, sit quietly while others talked, and leave early. Exhausted, not from the conversation, but from the effort of pretending the conversation mattered. He was recalibrated. And once you are recalibrated, you cannot force yourself back. You can try, you can accept the invitation, you can show up, you can smile and nod. But inside you will feel like an actor who has forgotten why they are on stage. The script will feel absurd. The performance will feel unbearable, and you will leave early, drive home in silence, and feel the relief wash over you the moment you close the door. That relief is the warning. It means you are too far in. It means solitude is no longer a preference. It is a need, and needs, unlike preferences, are not negotiable. But here is the part that Nietzsche struggled with until the day his mind collapsed. The part that kept him awake in those boarding houses, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he had made a terrible mistake. If solitude gives you clarity, if it strips away the illusions and shows you the truth, what do you do with that truth when there is no one to share it with? Nietzsche wrote for an audience he believed existed somewhere in the future. He called them his philosophers of the future, minds that would one day be capable of understanding what he was trying to say. But in his present, in his actual day-to-day existence, there was no one. No peer who could meet him at his depth. No companion who could walk beside him on the path he was carving. He was alone with his revelations. And revelations, when they have no witness, start to feel like hauntings. You are beginning to feel this. You have thoughts now that you cannot share. Not because they are shameful, but because they require too much context, too much philosophical scaffolding, too much time to explain. And the people in your life do not have that time. They do not have that patience. They want the summary, the soundbite, the version of your thoughts that fits into a text message. But your thoughts do not fit anymore. They have grown too large, too complex, too layered. So you stop sharing them, you stop trying to translate, and slowly, without even noticing, you stop speaking altogether, not because you're sad, because you have nothing left to say to people who cannot hear you. Nietzsche called this the loneliness of the creator. He wrote, "The creator is always a world apart, solitary, and full of contempt for the herd." But the contempt is not cruelty, it is grief. Grief over the unbridgeable gap between what you have seen in the solitude and what the world is willing to see. And that grief has a weight that no philosophy can lift. So what do? What did Nietzsche do? He kept walking. He kept writing. He kept choosing the solitude even as it devoured him. Because the alternative, returning to the herd, pretending he had not seen what he had seen, was a death worse than isolation. He chose the loneliness of the truth over the comfort of the lie, and he paid for it with his sanity. But here is what you need to understand. You are not Nietzsche. You do not have to walk his path to its end. You do not have to choose between total isolation and total conformity. There is a third option that Nietzsche never found, not because it did not exist, but because his time and his temperament did not allow it. The third option is selective solitude. You do not have to exile yourself from all of humanity. You have to exile yourself from the parts of humanity that are incompatible with who you are becoming. This means you stop trying to maintain relationships that were built on a version of you that no longer exists. You stop going to gatherings that drain you. You stop answering to people who have not earned access to your inner world. But you also stay open, very open, to the rare encounter, to the person who speaks your language, to the conversation that does not require translation, to the mind that meets yours without you having to bend. Those people exist. Nietzsche met a few of them. Lou Salome, the writer and psychoanalyst, who understood him better than almost anyone, though their relationship ended in heartbreak. Franz Overbeck, his loyal friend who stayed with him even as the world turned away. They were rare, but they were real. And their existence proves that the solitude you are experiencing does not have to be permanent exile. It can be a filter, a refining fire that burns away everyone who was never meant to stay, leaving only the ones who can walk with you in the silence without needing to fill it. But you have to accept the cost. Because the cost is real. The cost is that you will lose people, not because you are cruel, but because you are no longer compatible. The cost is that you will be misunderstood. Your family will think you have changed for the worse. Your old friends will say you are not fun anymore. Your culture will call you antisocial, cold, detached, and you will not be able to defend yourself without sounding exactly like what they are accusing you of being. The cost is that you will spend long stretches of time with no one. No text messages, no plans, no validation from the outside world that you are on the right path. You will have only your own conviction. And some nights that will not feel like enough. Nietzsche knew this cost, he paid it in full. And in his final lucid writings, he did not regret it. He wrote, "I am not a man, I am dynamite." He was not boasting, he was stating a fact. The solitude had transformed him into something the world was not ready for. And he accepted that. He chose the transformation over the comfort. The question you need to ask yourself, the question Nietzsche is asking you from across a century of silence, is this: are you ready to pay that cost? Are you ready to become someone the world does not recognize? Are you ready to close the door and discover that the person you become in the silence is too true, too sharp, too free to ever fit back into the spaces you left behind? Because if you keep enjoying the solitude, if you keep choosing the silence, that is where this leads, not to loneliness, to sovereignty. And sovereignty, real sovereignty, is the loneliest throne there is. If you have made it this far, you are not watching this by accident. You are already on the path. You have already felt the pull of the silence. You have already noticed that the world feels louder and emptier at the same time. Nietzsche is not warning you to turn back. He is warning you to prepare. Because the solitude you are enjoying now is not the final form. It is the doorway, and what waits on the other side is a version of you that the people in your life have never met. A version of you that you have never met. The question is whether you have the courage to walk through that door and stay there even when the loneliness becomes so heavy you can barely breathe. Even when every part of you screams to go back, to reconnect, to be normal again. Nietzsche walked through, and he never came back, but he left a trail, a series of breadcrumbs in the form of books that no one read while he was alive. And those books are still here, still speaking, still guiding the rare few who find themselves on the same path, wondering if they are going insane or going sane for the first time. You are not insane, you are becoming. And becoming is always a solitary act. The only question left is whether you will see it through.